Hello everyone, and welcome back to Paul's Messy Bench Models. Today I've got a review of Revell's 1/24th scale Ford Fusion stock car. This one is in the markings for Danica Patrick. I'm not much of a stock car fan. Don't really pay much attention to the sport, but I am a sucker for box art. And when Revell put out their stock car kits about 3 years ago now, something like that, I looked at the picture and I thought, oh, that looks cool. So I bought it and I started it, and then I got distracted and put it away for a couple of years, and I've finally gotten around to finishing it. I noticed these stock car kits aren't in their catalog anymore, so I suspect that after going bankrupt and being bought out, they didn't renew all the licensing involved. When I started this kit, I didn't really intend to make a review of it, so I didn't really do a lot of documentation of the build as I was going through it. But I did take some notes, so I'll go over those, and hopefully you'll find them helpful if you've got the same kit or something similar. The engine is nicely detailed. Really all I did was add plug wires. There are flat areas on the valve covers where logos should go, but they don't provide any logos to put there. I made an attempt at making some decals for the valve covers on my home printer, and not entirely successful, but at least you can tell something is there. Overall, most of the stuff in the kit fits well, but there are some problem spots to watch out for. The first real fit issue with the kit, as you're going through the instructions, is these exhaust headers. You can see here that I've had to carve away a little bit of the frame so that the engine will come all the way down. Right there and right there. It's very important to get the engine all the way down, because this air cleaner, the intake of it, butts up right against the body, and if you don't get it level with the tabs on the dashboard, the body will rest on top of the air cleaner instead of on the tabs on the dashboard. Since your carburetor becomes totally invisible once you have the air cleaner on, you could simplify things by just leaving it off and gluing your air cleaner to the body. If you're gluing the body on, no one will ever know. The next fit issue with the kit involves the front suspension. If you build the kit according to the instructions without modification, the wheels will stick way too far out. I didn't notice the problem until I'd got everything assembled, and I wound up sawing the ends off the upper and lower A-arms to shorten them, and then gluing the assembled wheel and hub and brakes back on. That's one way to do it. It's probably not the best way to do it. It might be easier to carve away some of the hub rather than the way I did it. But that was the only choice I had at the time. If you look at photos of the real car, the tires really took up inside the fenders. So even after trimming the upper and lower A-arms, my tires, I think, still stick out a little too far. The next issue with this kit, especially if you're building Danica Patrick's version, is the driver figure. This is the figure they provide to put in the kit, which has less than stellar sculpting and appears to be a dude. I printed out a picture of Danica Patrick at a scale 5'2", and you can see that the driver figure they give you with the head on would be bigger than a standing Danica Patrick sitting down. This guy's really big. I suspect with these kits is that they tried to minimize the amount of tooling they would have to make for all the separate stock cars they were releasing. I think there was a Jimmy John's Kevin Harvick Ford Fusion and a Chase Elliott Chevy SS that came out about the same time. And I've seen the instruction sheet for the Chevy SS, and underneath the body it looks like exactly the same kit. So even if you're building the Chevy, I think a lot of your fit issues and things to fix might even be the same on that kit. I didn't have any female driver figures, and I really couldn't find any on the internet. So what I wound up doing was I took a driver figure. I think it was made by Profil 24, but that figure was very short and skinny. So I did some carving, and with some files and 2-part epoxy putty, I sort of resculpted him, did a gender reassignment surgery, and made the figure look more like a girl. The decal sheet includes decals for the driver figure's uniform, and luckily they more or less fit to my modified Profil 24 figure. Revell provides a decal for the helmet visor, and it doesn't quite pull off a realistic look. I wound up painting with clear blue over it anyway, so it might be easier just to paint the visor to get a realistic effect. So one of the problems I think shared tooling between the Ford and the Chevy kits is the fit of the body to the chassis. If you follow the instructions and don't make any modifications, the body will rest on this tab on the back of the package shelf and the 2 tabs on the front of the dashboard, and it'll be fine, it'll be strong and stable. But if you turn the car upside down, there will be a big gap at the front of the chassis and the back. The chassis is not long enough to fill the body from end to end. I wound up adding plastic strip to the front and the back of the car so that there wouldn't be a gap between the body and the chassis at both ends. When it comes time for painting and decals, I would recommend photocopying the instructions to the same size as the car to help you cut out masks to mask off the gray and blue areas. You do get some wiggle room because the decals mostly cover the transitions between the gray and the blue. The painting instructions aren't very clear on how to paint the back fenders. In photographs of the car, the blue comes up onto the top of the fender, and in the instructions it seems like it stops at that ridge, which doesn't really look right. The decals and the instructions for the decals are generally good. There were a couple of issues. This Tooth Fairy decal at the back of the car, the instructions would have you put it all in this recessed area here, and it just won't fit without covering up the Ford logo. So you have to cut that one into 2 pieces and put part of it up there. At least that's what I did. These colored circles are separate decals. The instructions show these colored circles down here in the clear area. It doesn't really show in the picture, but this yellow one is on top of a little protrusion in the glass. And there's two more protrusions up here. So it seemed to make more sense to put the circles up on those protrusions like they are there. I assume they're some kind of vents or something. I don't know. But that's what I did. It looks like they didn't pay Goodyear licensing fees. So you have to come up with your own Goodyear decals for the tires and these front fenders. So the safety nets on the car are molded to the body and the roll cage. And they looked a little clunky to me. So I cut and carved those out and replaced them with mesh I made out of pinstriping tape that I painted black. Well, I've got a few more things to do with this car. I need to attach my hood hold downs and buff a few blemishes out of the paint, but pretty much done. So I hope you found this review of the kit useful, and thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.